There's no doubt that Ryan Gosling is a huge star. He's a marquee name, as they say in Hollywood. And it's his name often that gets a film made or helps get a film made.
They're gonna print that story in the paper tomorrow morning.
I know.
So why'd you do it? Why would you do that to the campaign?
The campaign will survive.
Why would you do that to me?
He's constantly enigmatic. He's constantly sort of, you can see that there's something else going on behind him than there is actually being displayed. Very, very few actors, even in the past, have that kind of quality of stillness.
What am I to you?
Go meet your daughter.
He carries films on his shoulders at times. Films like Drive, films like Blade Runner. Those are films that without him don't work. And that's very rare to say of an actor, that no one else could play that role as well.
Jimmy asked what you didn't say when you get onto the moon.
Well, we're not sure we're gonna get onto the moon. A lot of things have to go right before that happens.
Ryan Gosling was born in November 1980 in London, Ontario. His family were Mormons, Church of Latter-day Saints. His father worked initially in a local paper mill and then became a travelling salesman. So for the first few years of his life, he was quite peripatetic. He travelled around a number of different schools, and he didn't really settle in schools. He had a diagnosis of ADHD, but also partly he just wasn't finding a place to rest, so he'd be bullied at schools.
In fact, there was one notorious time when he took a couple of steak knives to school, and in the playground he actually threw them at the bullies. That got him suspended from school, and his mother, Donna, decided to take him out of school at that stage and homeschool him for a year.
Certainly what you get a sense of with Ryan Gosling is that performing was a way of defining himself. From a very early age, he liked to sing. At weddings, Ryan would come and sing in front of an audience. He has an uncle who performed with an Elvis tribute band, and Ryan would join in. So while there is a Mormon side to him, it wasn't so strict that he couldn't sort of enjoy himself.
At 11, he auditioned for the Mickey Mouse Club, and he was accepted and had to move down to Florida, where the show was filmed, where he was looked after by Justin Timberlake's mum, who became his legal guardian for that time. While he was away, while he was working in the Mickey Mouse Club with people like Justin Timberlake and Britney Spears and so forth, his parents got divorced. So when he came back, his time on the show ended. He lived with his mother and his sister and never really settled back into education. He dropped out of high school around the age of 17 to pursue a career in acting.
Unfortunately, at the same time, he lost his agent, so it was a struggle for a while for him to get work. However, he got a film, and he made his first film, Remember the Titans, which was a small role, but it was a very, very interesting step for him.
This began his move into cinema, and his next role was the one that really broke him.
And God said to Avram, take yourself away from your land, away from the place you were born, away from your father's house, and go to a new land, a place that I will show you.
I want you to teach it to me.
Why?
Not your enemy.
The Believer is almost a shock when you kind of look at it. It's based on a true story, in fact, and it follows a young Jewish man who has become disillusioned, shall we say, in an extreme way to orthodoxy. He hates the religion. He hates the way heritage dictates. And his rebellion is to go to an extreme place and to disguise himself and join a neo-Nazi group.
The way that Ryan Gosling plays the role has this incredible power because he's really playing someone who is personally at war with his own faith. So whilst he spouts anti-Semitic tropes, there's a scene where he goes with a group of skinheads to break up a temple and desecrate the Torah. And he is infuriated by the skinheads for their lack of understanding of Judaism. So it's not an ideological anti-Semitism in a way. It's his personal battle with God and with his faith.
The intelligence of this performance is astounding for a man of his age, and it is so persuasive that it became very, very dangerous and controversial. So controversial, in fact, that the film wasn't allowed to be exhibited in the cinemas and in fact went out on Showtime. Later on, it won the Grand Jury Prize at Sundance, and Gosling himself was highly praised for his performance.
If The Believer sort of defined the actor that Ryan Gosling was going to be, then The Notebook defined the star he was going to be. This is a big-hearted romance based on the Nicholas Sparks novel, and has become one of those sort of perennial romantic weepies. It's kind of sort of standard rom-com by which others are judged.
The Notebook was the film that really moved Ryan Gosling into a role that he's sort of fought over the course of his career, that of a sex symbol, that of someone who appealed as a romantic lead, opposite Rachel McAdams in the story of a young couple who meet and who try to form a relationship across a class barrier.
It's a charming film. It is fairly straightforward in terms of the romantic sort of ups and downs, but it is played with such conviction that it never seems mawkish. Yes, it's sentimental. Yes, it's absolutely endearing. Yes, it is all the things that you want from a young love story and then the aging versions of the two lovers, as it were. And at the same time, because of the performances, and especially that of Ryan Gosling, you never get the feeling that you're being too manipulated. Wonderfully gorgeous performance.
It's heartbreaking. He has these eyes that you can see why a million hearts broke for him, and it really does start to launch him into this career as a very soulful young romantic lead, which he really rejects. So there's a number of times in his career where he tries to redefine how the audience see him.
The gun is in this house. Maybe he was wearing gloves. Maybe he had time to change. But it's in the house, and I'll tell you why it's in the house. Because people were watching the house, and he never came out.
What I like about Ryan Gosling's career is that we think of it as one thing, as kind of very serious and very indie in its own way, when in fact it's not that at all. He's very clear about trying different things. And Fracture is a great example of a kind of courtroom thriller style noir drama in which he slots into very well. In fact, you'd wish you'd do a bit more of this kind of Hollywood movie.
Anthony Hopkins plays a man who kills his wife, apparently accidentally, and Ryan Gosling plays a young prosecutor who's determined to show that there was intention there. The roles are they're not hugely well written. And what's beautiful about the way that Hopkins and Gosling play this is around this script, they develop these characters by the beauty of their acting, by the way that they give just very, very smoothly, very differently, and a huge soul to these two characters. So when they are getting into some quite corny lines and some quite corny plot twists, they're incredibly believable, very compelling. And they take this film into a very, very powerful place, purely by the strength of their performances.
What have you been doing?
Oh, I'm permitted the use of a private investigator.
Not to investigate me.
Why not? You're investigating me.
Because you shot your wife.
Allegedly. That's how it works, right? If I can't introduce something in court as evidence, it doesn't exist legally.
I'm not going to play games with you.
I'm afraid you have to, old sport.
This is about two men with enormous egos battling it out on screen, verbally, if not physically, and also to actually try and best each other. What Ryan Gosling doesn't know is that Hopkins has sort of set him up. And so it's a game of cat and mouse. The real joy of this film is not to see how it turns out, although there is a sort of enigma about just how far he is sort of manipulated the situation, but just the joy of watching a veteran actor like Hopkins and a relative newcomer like Gosling spar almost as equals.
It's almost like an education in how to act. If you want to, they take the phone book and they make it sing.
Gosling he's a very serious actor, but he can turn on the movie star very well. Plus he's here with the likes of Anthony Hopkins, David Strathairn, he's got Rosamund Pike. It's a really good cast, but he's very kind of alive in the middle of it. And you think within what is it, must be 6 years, he's gone from the Mickey Mouse Club to being a really good, serious leading man. And in a very underrated, good old-fashioned courtroom thriller.
This man's gonna kill his wife. This man's gonna kill his wife.
Do you have any experience at all?
Sure.
Where have you worked?
I mean, I've helped people move before. I mean, one of my jobs?
Right, but you never worked for a moving company.
No.
Okay, so that would be no experience. Where are you from?
Florida.
And how long you been here?
Like 2 years.
And where are you living?
I live in Brooklyn.
Okay, and can you get here every day?
Yeah, I'll get here.
And I need you here by 7 a.m.
I'll get here.
Blue Valentine stars Ryan Gosling and Michelle Williams as a couple who meet, again, across a class divide. It's not quite a trope for Ryan Gosling, but he's played a couple of these working class kids who falls in love above his station.
So here we have what's almost the inverse of The Notebook. We have a story about a marriage, and that goes from the enchantment of early romance when they first meet to the despair of the end of love, a marriage coming apart. But rather just tell it in a chronological order, the film moves about in time. We flash back and forth to get a kind of emotional through line. The kind of the past and the present are meant to kind of compare. You're meant to see, rather despairingly, what's gone wrong.
I'm done with this. I'm done being angry like this. I'm done having you drunk like this. I am done. Don't close that door.
I'm closing the door. Don't talk like that.
Mimi.
Hey, don't talk to me.
You okay?
Mimi, you know what? We're gonna take a little minute. We're just gonna take a second.
You know what? This is why I don't talk to you.
This
You
is
go
why-
from here to here.
This
No
is
time
why,
at all.
This is why you talk to me. Because I'm here. This is the only reason you're talking to me.
Somehow, through his physicality, you know which stage in the relationship and which age he is. And it's quite easy in a way for an actor to play the difference between 26 and 60, because you can put on a lot of makeup and a lot of, prosthetics, but 26 and 30, 32 is quite difficult because you're showing this with just the slight aging of your body. It's not really in the skin that, they don't put any makeup on him to age him. It's just the way that the disappointment of his life gradually wears his shoulders down and makes him feel older without anything obvious about him. But conversely, the character also has to retain the same level of optimism. So he still believes in the relationship, still believes in love. And it's a beautiful mismatch that he manages to put together.
Gosling is very good at creating chemistry with his co-stars, especially female co-stars. And he does it by, frankly, letting them do a lot of the work. He acts as a kind of sounding board for them and then reacts to them. He's a very, very good reactive actor. It shows in this film tremendously.
I'm not naive, okay? I've worked on more campaigns than most people have by the time they're 40. I'm telling you, this is the one.
You really have drunk the Kool-Aid.
I have drunk. It's delicious.
The Ides of March is George Clooney's adaptation of Beau Willamot's play Farragut North. And this is a political satire. And it's all about the kind of shenanigans that go on within a party, this is the Democratic Party, as a governor starts his run for president. So it's all about the inner workings of American politics. Seen through the eyes of a young sort of press agent who comes in. He's played by Ryan Gosling. And the idea of the film is the young man, views the older man's world. He's an idealist. He believes in the truth of things.
You think he begins as an idealistic person, then you realise gradually, very slowly, that his belief is really in himself and his move towards power, and that he wants to be associated with power rather than necessarily believing in the truth of what his candidate's saying. And then gradually his role gets darker and darker and darker.
I'm gonna give you everything. I'm gonna give you Morris. I'm gonna give you his whole strategy. I'm gonna
I
give
don't
it
need
all.
his whole strategy. I already have it. Paul gave it all to Thompson.
What if I had something else?
You would do that to Morris? To Paul?
Yeah.
The great thing about Gosling is he can sort of look and seem really, really smart and carry that idealism or convey it, while at the same time you are suspicious of what lies behind him. He can hide his true feelings on the screen.
There's one particular very long-held shot that George Clooney directs where the camera just holds on Ryan Gosling's face for an enormous amount of time. And over the course of the shot, somehow it becomes chilling. Now, there's nothing that he's not doing anything, he's not saying anything. But as the shot is held, you suddenly realise the darkness of this man.
This brings out the best in him in this film because, of course, politics is a shadowy business, especially that when it goes on behind the scenes. What we see in any sort of campaign is only the surface of an absolute snake pit. And Gosling is particularly good at being a very, very well-dressed snake.
Crazy Stupid Love, I think it's terrific comedy, a terrific romantic comedy. And it gave us something that we've not seen yet from Ryan Gosling. Humour and silliness and self-parody. And he's really good at it. And it really works. Maybe it's because so much of his career is so serious that when he finally gets a chance to sort of send himself up, it's so refreshing. It sort of lightens the whole world up.
Steve Carell is an older man who his wife divorces him, and he goes to a bar to drink away his sorrows, and he sees Ryan Gosling, who's this incredibly successful pickup artist who's just got the lines and the moves. He can go up to any woman and take her home within minutes by his skills. And gradually Ryan Gosling starts to educate Steve Carell in how to attract women. And then at a key point in the film, Ryan Gosling meets Emma Stone and does something that he doesn't ever expect to do in his life, which is he actively falls in love and suddenly he loses his powers. He's Superman come face to face with kryptonite.
Gosling is the key to this because he is the one who's actually manipulating stuff. He's the one who's being really sort of ghastly. I mean, if you came across him in real life, you'd want to sort of slap him about a bit. And at the same time, he manages to make you want to like him. He manages to give something you want it to turn out right for him.
Up until this point, he's never really played comedy. He's played these intense romantic roles or these very hard-edged roles. He played very much in the drama or the romantic drama tradition, and suddenly he's playing this very funny lounge lizard absolutely brilliantly.
It's a real example, I think, of just how Gosling can use his own persona to great effect, and he's very funny. He's really funny in the movie. And you just wish a bit more of that in his career, because he's good at it.
What do you do?
I drive.
Like a limo driver?
Like for movies?
Oh. You mean all the car chases and stuff?
Yeah.
Drive was a passion project for Ryan Gosling. He stars with Carey Mulligan and Bryan Cranston, and he had been attached before a lot of the others. He'd seen the potential in the book and wanted it to be something that he developed and worked with. Now, the script is very sparsely written, very sparsely written. He plays a Hollywood stuntman who is also a getaway driver for robbing gangs, and he lives in a LA apartment, and next door Carey Mulligan lives with a child, a baby. Her partner is in prison, and he falls in love with her.
The extraordinary thing about his performance in this is that he is an utterly convincing stunt driver and a getaway driver. He did learn to do stunt driving to a certain extent, so he is behind the wheel. Nicholas Winding Refn, the director, insists that most of the stunts are done by the stars anyway.
It's very dark. It's very minimalist in terms of what it wants from Ryan Gosling. It sort of gives us that idea we have of Gosling as a kind of actor who does very little to do a lot. And certainly I see this film as the Ryan Gosling as Steve McQueen style.
This is the skill of Ryan Gosling, is that very rarely does he actually say anything, this character. I mean, he almost never speaks. He has a few lines, but most of the time it's in his eyes and in his stance and in the way that he looks, stares, turns. And he manages to convey a man who very slowly falls in love, who then wants to protect a woman, who then does something incredibly stupid in order to make sure that she's okay and has to deal with the consequences. And he manages to do all this, barely a word spoken.
Marvellous film, amazing performance in an amazing movie.
For the rest of your life, you're going to be looking over your shoulder. I'm just telling you this because I want you to know the truth. But the girl is safe.
I want to take care of my son. That's my job. Let me do my job.
Okay, how are you going to take care of us?
Don't say it like that.
But how are you going to take care of me?
Don't talk down to me.
The Place Beyond the Pines re-teamed Ryan Gosling with Derek Cianfrance, the director. And this time it was very much a collaboration. They developed the idea together, they worked on the screenplay together. The character that Gosling played was his idea, his concept. But again, it's one of those things that Cianfrance does, and then it plays around with the idea of narrative time and your narrative expectations.
He plays a stunt motorcycle rider with a carnival travelling through different towns. He returns a year later to a town he was previously in and finds that Eva Mendes, the girl he'd had a romance with, gave birth to his child, but is now with another man. So he stays in the town and wants to earn money to give this money to his kid, really, help raise his kid. But he doesn't really have... This is where Ryan Gosling is a very interesting performer in this film. He's such an intelligent actor, but he's really playing kind of a stupid character. So he manages to do this without being patronising or without, playing down, playing dumb.
How do we do it?
Okay. First thing is we're gonna go in there nice and early, just when the doors open, okay? You're gonna take a look at all the tellers. Go for the oldest woman you can, right? Failing that, go to the most meek. You get her to put the money out on the table. Why? So that way you can see if there's a die pack.
He falls in with another friend of his who's just got out of jail, who says, well, what are you doing now? And he says, well, I rob banks. And they come up with a plan. He says, well, you're a stunt motorcyclist. I'm a bank robber. We can do this together. The motorcycle is the best way of escaping from a robbery. And they plot to rob several banks together, all of which are very successful. So he's able to sort of support his, newfound family. Unfortunately, after something goes horribly wrong, he does one job on his own and it ends in terrible tears.
Gosling's part is the energetic beginning. There's a great opening sequence. The way the film begins is just following him as he walks to the track. And the camera just stays on his face as he walks. He's tattooed, he's muscly, he puts his helmet on, gets on his bike and goes. It's a single camera tracking shot, staying with him the whole time. And it's a compelling opening. He really brings the energy to the film.
There is an element of Western to it in its grandness. So if Blue Valentine was Cianfrance and Gosling doing very indie, very intimate, very almost claustrophobic, The Place Beyond the Pines is quite expansive and visual and full of kind of stunts and I wouldn't say epic necessarily, but a certain kind of indie epicness is going on within it. That's kind of powerful.
In the late 70s, banking wasn't a job you went into to make large sums of money. It was like selling insurance or accounting. And if banking was boring, then the bond department at the bank was straight up comatose. We all know about bonds. You give them to your snot-nosed kid when he turns 15. Maybe when he's 30, he makes $100. Boring.
The Big Short is an immensely ambitious and ultimately successful film which tells the non-fiction book by Michael Lewis about the 2008 banking crash through three main storylines. One about an eccentric fund manager who insists on betting against the housing market. Another one about two kids out in the wild, in the Midwest who have to try and get involved in the big markets because they can see the same thing. And also Ryan Gosling's character. And Ryan Gosling's character, what's beautiful about him is he's absolutely reprehensible and slimy. And he confesses, he has these wonderful monologues. It's really his story. He's always talking to the viewer. And what's also great, he's also talking to the viewer and criticising the film as he goes along. So at one point he plays a scene And then he'll turn to the camera and go, it was nothing like this. My friends were nothing like this. I hung out with models. I didn't hang out with these dweebs.
I told you we'd meet later. Unfortunately, it's in a place like this, which I would never be. I never hung out with these idiots after work, ever. I had fashion friends.
Apparently this guy wanted 200 mil in credit default swaps. Randall made the sale, can you believe it?
Somebody shorted 200 mil in mortgage bonds?
That was just with Deutsche. Word is he had half the town.
It's extraordinary that Ryan Gosling, who'd taken 3 years off since his last film because he wanted to sort of reassess his career and sort of get his head together, could come back in such august company, and so many of them, and still manage to steal the scenes from many of them. He looks completely different. His hair is dyed black, he's got a suntan, he looks he's almost unrecognizable. But he is the man who actually spots what is happening in the markets, and he predicts what's going to happen, and he sees the opportunity to make not millions but billions.
It's a lot of money. I get it. I can feel you judging me. That's palpable. But hey, I never said I was the hero of this story.
He's this way of helping us understand these amazingly complicated financial instruments that are taking place, helping us unpick the complexity of that story with this almost master of ceremonies role. And he's such a great character for that. So different from so many of his roles. This very confident, very cocky, I'm going to tell you all about all this. Very much in charge of the film. It's a lovely role for him.
It's a real sign of the calibre of actor he was now perceived to be, because that's what Adam McKay wanted. He wanted big names in this, because it was a moral statement of a movie, a prestige film about America. But also the versatility that Gosling had, in that he can look frumpy and ordinary, but he had that devil's gleam in his eye all the same.
At the end, he sort of got a check and he said, well, that's what happened. This is, this is how it all happened. This is what's going on. He said some of us made some money out of it. And he said, I personally made $2 million, which may seem like a lot of money to you folks. And the camera pans down to the check that he's sort of stroking. And the check is written for $47 million. So you know that whatever, you go back and you think, whatever he's told us is lies. And that gives you the clue to the entire edifice of the movie. Great stuff.
You have reached March Investigation. This machine records messages. Wait for the tone and speak clearly.
This is your daughter speaking. Thursday, as you may remember, is my birthday. Please give accordingly. Also, I hope you didn't forget that you're supposed to be working today.
The Nice Guys is another opportunity for Ryan Gosling to cut loose and to have fun. And for that reason alone, it's worth watching. But actually, it's got great chemistry in it. That it comes in a partnership you wouldn't have seen coming, because this is a film set in the 1970s, and it's about two rival private eyes who have to team up on an immensely complicated case involving disappearing porn stars and murdered people, and the fact they may be working for the same person. And his partner in this would be Russell Crowe. And you don't really see Ryan Gosling and Russell Crowe together until you watch it on screen, and it works perfectly.
Well, we know Mary Jane turned up.
Who's that?
Mary Jane, marijuana, pot. Place streaks fit, they're smoking it.
Oh, yeah. I can't smell it.
What?
I got hit in the head a while back. I lost my sense of smell.
You can't smell?
Yeah.
Wow, you're a detective who can't smell?
Yeah.
Oh, this just keeps getting better and better.
Gosling is just tremendously funny in this. He brings almost a kind of sense of silent comedian to it, in the way that he sort of pratfalls and various accidents. He's always getting into accidents. He's always falling off balconies or breaking his arm or something, or getting beaten up. And in fact, the better part of him is his young daughter, who is cleverer and smarter and basically looks after him.
There's a beautiful scene at the beginning of the film where he's about to break into a house, and he does the thing that you see in those private eye movies where he wraps his hand in a handkerchief, punches a window, and cuts his hand.
That's a lot of blood.
He's just so inept. He cuts his hand, then has to go back home, and his daughter has to fix it up, and it's terrible. He's just an awful private eye.
It's got a very playful attitude and a playful take on, the staples of detective stories and neo-noir stories and LA stories. And it's such a sort of contrast to Drive in terms of Gosling's career.
The whole of his role, in a weird way, is almost like Wile E. Coyote or something. It's just this very, very almost cartoonish comedy that he plays. But because he is Ryan Gosling, it's completely believable. You absolutely buy into it. Because everything he's doing is daft. It's slapstick, but he does it with this hint of immense tragedy. What we do know is that his wife died in a house fire. And he brings enough of that into his silences and his pauses and the things that he refuses to talk about, that when you see him doing these ridiculous rolling down hills in the middle of the night at a porn star party, there's also this it's not purely funny. There's real heart to it. And that's the great skill of Ryan Gosling, is that when he's doing the daftest role, you still feel strongly for the character that he's playing in an emotional way.
Tell me the truth. And don't take it easy on me just because I'm your father. You just tell it to me straight. Am I a bad person?
Yes. That's the window that Humphrey Bogart and Ingrid Bergman looked out of in Casablanca.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can't believe you work right across the street from that.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Anyway, I love being around this stuff, you know?
I know what you mean. I get coffee 5 miles out of the way just so I can be near a jazz club.
Really?
Yeah, the Van Beek, do you know it? All the big swing bands used to play there. Count Basie, Chick Webb. Anyways, it's Samba Tapa's place now, so...
La La Land is Damien Chazelle's tribute to old MGM musicals dragged into the 21st century. It's a kind of throwback. It's a fantasy musical. It's all about two people in the fringes of show business.
Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone are a couple who meet in Hollywood. He is a musician who is making his way as a working musician, but really wants to be a jazz artiste. And she is an actress who's trying to make it, but he's always getting turned down. It feels a little bit like one of those old, it feels a bit like Singing in the Rain or one of those films. There's a certain classic feel to it.
It does all those tropes, and it does the kind of musical numbers that you expect of classic Hollywood. And there's that undercurrent in it, that while it's a modern day LA film, it's always hearkening to old Hollywood. But there's something slightly scruffy about the musical numbers. They're not as precise as Gene Kelly. They're done in a way that suggests a sort of reality within this world. And there's also something very clever going on within it, because the theme of this love story is, can love compete? It stands up to the test really well. He plays difficult very well. He plays the romance very well, plays it with all the naturalism he brought to Blue Valentine and all those films he's made. And he does the musical stuff very well. He dances and he sings without being absurd. Emma Stone, of course, can hold a screen anywhere, but she's a great partner of Gosling's. There's something really good in their chemistry together.
It's a very, very good performance, and the film was justly rewarded. He was nominated for an Academy Award. It's a beautiful piece of work.
Erase everything.
Even the child.
All trace.
I've never retired something that was born before.
What's the difference?
To be born is to have a soul, I guess.
Blade Runner 2049 must have been a real challenge for Ryan Gosling. How to take part in a film that was a sequel to one of the most popular science fiction movies of all time must have put a great deal of pressure on him. However, it gave him the opportunity to yet again sort of refine his personality, refine his on-screen character in a way that allowed him to do as little as possible.
Ryan Gosling plays Kay, who we gradually across the course of the film believe is intimately connected with Harrison Ford's original character from the first film. Ryan Gosling brings to the part of Kay an enormous vulnerability. He is a man who kills people for a living. He's a cop, he's got a car and a gun, he's all the accoutrements of a tough guy. But everything that happens to him, the way that this story unfolds as he tries to identify the remains of a body found way outside Los Angeles, and tries to gradually unpick this idea that it's possible that replicants could have children, which would change everything. If it was possible for these genetic humans to breed, it would change the whole essence of what people have been trying to do. He feels constantly crushed by the weight of the future.
What are you doing here? I heard the piano. Don't lie. You're a cop.
I'm not here to take you in.
Oh, yeah? Then what?
I just have some questions.
There's incredible scenes with Harrison Ford and all those kind of moments. Roger Deakins is a cinematographer who just does things with colour, orange and sort of dark reds. There's this whole idea about advertising and hoardings that come to life and react to the people they're responding to. You see your own advert. All the kind of ideas of the first film are there in the second film.
It's a wonderful, interpretation of where this story could go. And he very few actors could. Again, this is one of the things about Ryan Gosling. Often there will be a role where you say, very few actors could have played this role and made it believable and made us buy in, and this is one of those roles.
I don't know what space exploration will uncover, but I don't think it'll be exploration just for the sake of exploration. I think it'll be more the fact that it allows us to see things that maybe we should have seen a long time ago.
I can't think of any other actor who could have played Neil Armstrong as well as Ryan Gosling in First Man. Of course, it is about the first man on the moon, and although it's not really about that landing, what it is, it's about everything that went before it.
The essence of the film, interestingly, is about Armstrong as someone who is very, very emotionally closed off. The inciting incident, which has happened before the film starts, is he's lost a child and he shuts down. And the reason really that NASA choose him is because he is ice cold and emotionless, so that when they're on the moon and things are going wrong and he's in this vast piece of metal that's clanking and they've got seconds to make a decision, he shows no emotion. He just makes the rational decision.
Gemini 8, audio read.
We have serious problems. We're rolling up and we can't turn anything off. We're continuously increasing the left roll.
Roger, copy.
We're pulsing the LCS slowly. It's all roll right. We're trying to kill our roll rate here.
For Ryan Gosling, it was almost like another replicant role. It was another sort of very internal, very rigid part. And I think he does it really well. I mean, the scenes towards the end of them going into space and landing on the moon are incredibly well done. And how Chazelle does, or redoes, the great image of him stepping onto the moon for the first time, it's breathtaking. But there's a sort of void in the film as well, because we don't know him, we can't understand him. He's a little unreachable as a character. And the idea seems to be is that that's what it took to be Neil Armstrong, was almost a negation of his human qualities, to become this kind of focused machine.
He's just got this ability to tell stories with so little. And it's another remarkable performance from him. And I think that what surprises me about Ryan Gosling is that he hasn't won his Academy Award yet. He hasn't been identified as one of the great actors, because these roles are hard roles to play, and he does them in a way that looks almost effortless. Ryan Gosling has a number of projects. He's always working, Ryan Gosling, really, apart from when he decides he needs to change his career, take a little bit of time, and come back as someone different. And his next role is as Ken in Barbie, which is, again, it's one of those great Ryan Gosling moves. This is a role of someone who is just cheesecake, absolute. It's almost like if you took Crazy Stupid Love and you moved it even further into the most extreme version of muscles, abs, big smile, and nothing much going on in his head. That's what he's playing next. And this is why he's such an interesting actor, because that is not the obvious choice.
Ryan Gosling is an unusual actor, which makes him a very unusual movie star. He's one of the very few performers on screen at the moment who seems to be reducing his performance rather than expanding it. And that's because he knows that he has a certain presence. He's come to understand himself in his own skin.
He's very baffling, very confusing, very talented, very skillful actor. And it's to the point where you ought to almost assume, as soon as you see that his name's involved in it, you think, well, there's got to be something worth watching in this, because if Ryan Gosling shows up on screen, it's going to be a great piece of work.
Ryan Gosling has already had a fascinating career. I mean, he's not even in his prime yet. There's great stuff ahead of him. But he's achieved such interesting variety and interesting kind of qualities that I don't think we know exactly who Ryan Gosling is, and that may be exactly as he wants it.
Ryan Gosling is an incredibly talented actor who is able to bring comedy to darkness, soul to slapstick. He's able to bring muscle and trouble to romantic dramas. He can inhabit almost any character and tell a story with very, very little. It's like he's a virtuoso musician, and it's his entire body that's his instrument.